y'all, welcome back. I found another interesting video on TikTok concerning Canada and the United States. So just take a look and leave your comments below on what you think about what's going on currently.
Americans don't know that Canada is preparing for war. That's the video I made on February 8th. It is now March 7th. And every single day for a month, people have said to me, you're overreacting, you're fear-mongering. By people, I mean TikTok commenters. This isn't real, this is hyperbolic, it's only tariffs, blah, 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 blah. And I have pushed back every single time saying, no, we are preparing for the threat of annexation, which is invasion and occupation. And if you're not going to believe me, this article that was published this morning, how Trump's 51st state Canada talk came to be seen as deadly serious. When the tariffs came in this week, Trudeau was an oppressor, and he said the excuse that he's giving for these tariffs today of fentanyl is completely bogus, completely unjustified, completely false. What he wants to see is a total collapse of the Canadian economy because that'll make it easier to annex us. Now, maybe some of you have only seen that one video saying Americans don't know, which was really just, I thought would be seen by about 200 people. I made it off the cuff one morning after speaking to some friends in America, and it was shocking to me because on February 8th, by then, Canada already knew what was going on. On the 7th, Trudeau had his hot mic moment, which was when he talked about this threat being real. And all week leading up to that, when the tariff threats came in the first week of February, Canada already knew because Trump had been threatening us with this since November. But specifically, we knew something was going on, and here is some of the proof of what happened on February 3rd. On February 3rd, Trump and Trudeau spoke twice about discussions to do with the tariffs because he had been threatening us with tariffs at that time. But the discussion wasn't just about tariffs. And the New York Times have actually talked to 4 different people with firsthand knowledge of what happened on those 2 calls. They aren't being publicly identified because they don't actually have permission to speak. On the calls, Trump laid out a long list of grievances he had with the trade relationship between Canada and the US, specifically Canada's dairy sector, the difficulty American banks face in doing business in Canada, and Canadian consumption taxes that Trump deems unfair because they make American goods more expensive. But here's where it becomes really key. He told Trudeau that he did not believe that the treaty that demarcates the border between the 2 countries is valid, and he wants to revise the boundary, and then offered no further explanation. The border treaty is from 1908. It basically sets up between what happens in our country. Trump also mentioned revisiting the sharing of lakes and rivers between our 2 nations, like the Great Lakes, Niagara Falls, which is regulated by a number of different treaties. In addition to the call between Trudeau and Trump, Lutnick and our finance minister, Dominic LeBlanc, spoke on February 3rd. And Lutnick said to him, Mr. Trump had come to realize that the relationship between the United States and Canada was governed by a slew of agreements and treaties that were easy to abandon. And Trump was interested in doing just that. He wanted to eject Canada out of an intelligence sharing group known as Five Eyes that includes Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. He also wants to tear up the Great Lakes agreements and conventions between our 2 nations, including Superior, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. And he's reviewing military cooperation between the 2 countries, particularly NORAD. Ever since February 3rd, in subsequent communications between senior Canadian officials and Trump advisors, the list of topics has come up again and again and again. So the Canadian government is not dismissing it. To his credit, the only one not bringing it up is Marco Rubio, but that's a whole different story. Now, I'm not trying to make this video an I told you so, but I am saying, I guess I am saying I told you so. This isn't flippant. This is very serious. I live in a border town. I can see the American border from my house. We have family and friends in the United States that we will be cut off from. There is another thing that just went in this morning, or that's getting attention this morning, about the treatment of our snowbirds and just closing down, like Canadians are going to have to apply for visas to even go to the United States now. But more than that, I want people to know that this is very, very serious. And if you didn't believe me before, if you thought I was just some cracked out lady on the internet with a phone spewing nonsense, I'm not. The information that I knew about Canada preparing for war was because I pay attention to the news. I knew that although things were being said behind the scenes and all we knew about was the tariff, we did hear about the threat of annexation repeatedly over and over and over. And I knew that when Trudeau dropped on a hot mic to a bunch of our industry leaders that this was a very serious threat, he was trying to get the message out to the rest of Canada. We have been taking this seriously independently as Canadians, and it's time that Americans take it seriously as well.